Good morning, church family. I miss you. I wish we were just sitting, having coffee together so I could hear what God's been teaching you every day in this time. I look forward to the time we can safely gather again. Last week when they asked me to share a devotion and gave me a couple Psalms to choose from, I kind of just laughed because I really wouldn't have chosen them for myself. But then God really gently reminded me that this is actually back to the basics, to what he's been simply trying to teach me, to consider Jesus and keep my eyes fixed on him. So if you'll stay with me for a minute, I like to take a look at Psalm 110. In this psalm, David is looking to the Messiah. He's looking to the coming Messiah and his victorious reign, and he's encouraging the people of God to celebrate in faith what he will accomplish. And so let's take a look at verse 4. The Lord has sworn and will not change his mind. You are priests forever after the order of Melchizedek. And I'm sure I'm not the only one who thinks of the book of Hebrews after reading that verse. In the same way that David is looking to the Messiah, the book of Hebrews encourages and calls us to look to Jesus. And it reminds us that Jesus is the true and better high priest. He is not like the many former priests that were temporary and needing to make sacrifice for their own sins, but he is sufficient, eternal, holy, innocent, without sin. But remember that in chapter 4, 15 and 16, it says, "For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who in every respect has been tempted as we are, yet without sin. Let us then with confidence draw near to the throne of grace, that we may receive mercy and find grace to help in our time of need." Jesus is our priest forever. And if we continue to chapter 7, we find Psalm 110, verse 4, quoted twice. First, in verse 17, it quotes it, and after that, in verse 19, it says that a better hope is introduced through which we draw near to God. It's quoted again in verse 21, and followed by that, it talks about Jesus as our guarantee for this new covenant, that he is our permanent priest. And I love verse 25 that says, "Consequently, he is able to save to the uttermost those who draw near to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them." Look to Jesus, draw near to the throne of grace. And I think a really sweet reminder for us that might be appropriate today is there are no restrictions. For those who believe in Jesus, there are no restrictions in drawing near to the throne of grace. Because Jesus is our priest forever, as the end of Hebrews 7 tells us, he's holy, innocent, without sin, and that he offered himself once for all, we can have free and bold access to draw near to the throne. So wherever you are, whatever you have going on today, maybe fears are rising, maybe sin is being exposed, maybe depression and anxiety are creeping in. Church, would you be sure and hopeful? Jesus, who is living and active and always working out his sovereign love and plan, Jesus, our high priest, is with you. Would you look to him, draw near to the throne of grace? And church, would you just sit there a while? Would you stay right there? Would that be your stay at home and your shelter in place, right at the throne of grace, drawing near to him?